If you can change one thing about how money was talked about or not talked about in your household growing up, what would it be?
Oh, that's deep. I mean, I definitely would say that, I think a theme that's been common throughout my whole life that I didn't even realize it, but I've always been curious. People, I wouldn't describe myself as smart first. I would call myself curious first, and that's
Hmm.
why I had great relationships with teachers in high school and in undergrad and stuff, because certain teachers would really reward that curiosity. But something that I've learned recently is that the parents are the first teachers, you know what I mean? And so, I mean, I ended up going to business school. Part of that was because I saw you get your MBA, and so that made me really enamored with business. And so, the point is, from a young age, I was really impressionable, and so I definitely would have loved to, not to say that they need to hand the reins over to me like over in Young Sheldon and have me doing everything, being the CPA. But I just wish that in our culture there was more of a tendency to include kids and say, hey, so this is what bills are. This isn't grown folks' business and you need to stay out of it. Like, no, this is what helps the grown folks keep the roof and shelter over our head instead of using it as ammunition, emotional ammunition. Like, oh, you should be happy and don't question us. Don't worry about all this. Don't question us. Just be happy that for love is the fact that we do this for you and calculate these costs for you and worry about this behind your back so that you don't have to worry about it. Which I get it. That I can see how that's a form of love. Like, but that's also like avoidance and shielding us and babying us. But once we get past the age of 6, 7, 8, and can do multiplication, division, and can bust out a calculator, now bring us to the table and you don't gotta show us the exact numbers so that we go, you don't want your kids going to school repeating the exact numbers, but maybe start teaching us the concepts of, because I will say our parents did a great, well, my dad did a decent job with me of like doing flashcards and teaching me math, addition, subtraction. So then I would just say, with my generation, I'm gonna try to go the next step forward and start introducing the more complex concepts. Like, why are we learning addition and subtraction and division and all that and multiplication?
Okay. And how does that multiplication tie into the money?
Right.
I'm asking you.
Oh, you asking me? I mean, well, I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I mean, the question is going to be less and less as AI gets more and more because people going to use their brain less and less. But I mean, I remember back in the day, that's not that long ago. But you go to school and you got to bust out a pencil and paper. Let's say all the computers are down. How are you going to calculate how much money is in your bank account? Like, how are you going to run a budget? And not just a budget as in, okay, I got these bills this week and I got food, but like, how are you going to plan you and your family's financial future for the next month, 2 months, 6 months, if you can't do multiplication, if you can't even do 10 times 10? Which if you can't do that, that's cool. I'm not judging, but okay, let's get there. There are resources, especially if I'm speaking to you and if this is applying to you, it's never too late, especially nowadays with AI. Man, you can mess around and teach yourself anything.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll answer the question. What's one thing about money? So if you could change one thing about how money was talked about or not talked about in your household growing up, what would it be? Easy for me to talk about money.
Right.
And you said you don't have to give me the exact numbers. No, give me the exact numbers. That's real life. You don't have to give me theory. To your point, maybe it's when you're 12. Like maybe when you're smaller, talking about money in a way where you're helping them budget the money you give them or something like that. But at some point, include allowing kids a seat at the table to learn about money. If you don't teach them, you gonna leave it to the world to teach them about money and risk them not knowing about money? Because it's not okay to say, well, I didn't know. So you're gonna stay in darkness, in ignorance, because what you don't know there's a strong chance your kids is not going to know as well, because you said something critical. It starts in the home in terms of education. It's really not the school's responsibility. Like, they're secondary, but it's like things that you really want to instill in your kids. That's something that I would have liked to see more of growing up, is not talking about it from the standpoint of turn that off, you're gonna run the light bill up. Turn this off,
Right.
the bill gonna go up. That you running it too long, turn the TV, like, not that conversation. That's more of that for me, from my perception. That's money is tight, money is hard to come by. We need to squeeze every penny ounce. And so it's coming from a place of lack, fear, concern about money. And it doesn't mean you don't have your mind on your money and knowing where every dollar goes. So it's not really about that. It's just, you, as a kid, you're very perceptive. Like, you're paying attention. You're like, why are you yelling about that? What, like, why are you so
Right.
why are you so charged up about that? Oh, do we not have enough money? Or, and so so it's that, so that's kind of where my mind goes. So that's one thing, just talk about money. You know what? I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question. When's the last time you made more money and felt genuinely more secure versus when making more just raised your spending and left the anxiety exactly where it was?
Oh, that's deep. That's
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna answer from a younger perspective. So I'm at undergrad about three years, almost 3.5 years. But yeah, so I said that to say I've had 2 pay raises in turn. I've left jobs twice. I've had to, just different circumstances. But the first one, I didn't feel it as much, I'll say. Because I also moved cities. I moved from one city that the cost of living wasn't as much as the second city. So that second city started eating up that raise. So it was like I felt like I was making the same amount. But but we made it work. But man, the second jump, it was crazy because it didn't really, I mean, it was a good jump in pay, but what it really changed for me was the trajectory. But that's a conversation for another conversation. We were talking about how did it, not making sure that you didn't. Because I think that I felt, I don't want to say I felt a victim too, but I definitely, I still save money, but I definitely raised my spending. Like, I give a prime example. Before my first paycheck hit, because I knew if I didn't do it by the first paycheck, I knew it wasn't gonna get done. So I said, let me just do this. And so I said, man, I've never ever been consistent in the gym. I've worked out, I've been to gyms, I've had gym memberships, I've had workout buddies. Um, even when I studied abroad, they had a little gym in the hotel. I went to the gym, when I was bored, but I ain't never been consistent. So I said, man, let me get a trainer and just see what's up. Like, I mean, I've had a trainer before. I mean, don't let me not say that. I've had a trainer for 2 or 3 months, but I want to see what it could look like more long term. And so before that first paycheck hit, I saw the, how you can pull it up. When you're in corporate America, you can pull it up before it hit. You're like, okay, what is it going to look like? When is it going to drop? Is it in the right account? Doing all that. But long story short, I said, okay, this is how much it's going to be. What does personal training cost? And this is the package. Okay, that looks reasonable. And then I just went ahead and went with that. But I brought that up because, when I first got it, I thought that personal training was something that you had to keep like forever. And that, I was like, man, this is going to be a part of me forever. And, that's great. And there's probably people that do. But I thought about it and I was like, man, I'm not competing for no like competitions right now. Like, I'm not like about to enter a powerlifting competition in the next 6 months or 12 months. And so, and my trainer said something like 2 or 3 months into training that I was like, nah, I'm good. Like, nah, that's not me. He was like, man, actually, maybe by September, he was like, maybe halfway before then we'll go down to, because we were doing 2 sessions. Maybe we'll go down to 1 session a week. And then maybe we'll actually go down to no sessions. Like, maybe you'll just be good. And that shocked me. I'm like, usually I'm used to people like they want to latch on and okay, let's get more services. Let's, you know what I'm
Run it
saying?
up.
Let's get you 3 and 4. Like, let's get you ripped. But he was like, nah, man, I want to see you like build confidence and do it on your own. So I was like, wow. So I started looking at the finances and was like, I looked at the budget and said, do I really? It came time to renew the training bill, and I said, do I really need to renew that? You know, because I buy packages, you know what I'm saying? So it's like 10 at a time. And so it came time to that last one, and I said, I don't know. I mean, I really enjoy the sessions, but I'm not buying these to enjoy the sessions. I'm buying these for progress. And I think it got me progress and it got me confidence. And so
Nice. So so to answer the question, the more money that you're making, you spending more.
spending went up. Spending went up for sure. I definitely, I would say so.
Yeah, that's the more money you make, the more you're going to spend.
For sure. For sure.
That's just been my experience. And you talking to somebody that has always like I pay myself first. We talked about it last week, and we pay myself first, pay ourselves first. But you just still right now I'm into I give you an example. It's crazy how things evolve and change. I got 2 examples. I love coffee. When you came down, I took you to one of the coffee shops, specialty shop that I like. Bro, it's absolutely ridiculous paying $9-10 for some coffee. I ain't gonna lie to you, but it's so
It's getting
good.
crazy.
And it's specialty coffee, and it's a higher grade of coffee, and it's my getaway. Like that's for me, that's like going to the movies. Like it's an experience for me. I enjoy it, and I'm like, hey, it's gonna. Because I'd be a hypocrite because I buy that latte. Well, for me, I typically get espresso, or I typically been doing espresso a lot lately, just because I not want to mix all that other stuff in there. But so I'm not the one to say don't buy the extra latte, put that money up. I think there's a world where you can do both, because if a latte is stopping you from getting your goals, you probably have an income problem. Because in the grand scheme of things, if you get the house coffee, which is probably still high quality, you know, a really good grade, which is better than the Starbucks and some of these other, you know, chains, still going to be a better grade of quality coffee. $5, $6. So we're talking, if you go 3-4 times a week, six times 4, 24. If $100 a month is stopping you from getting to your goal, it's probably an income. It's probably an income problem. I know a lot of people say it's not what you make, it's what you keep. In my mind, that's partially correct. I would say it's that plus income. And what I've noticed is sometimes you're addressing a symptom and you're not addressing like the actual root. And 2 things could be true at the same time. Maybe you do need to cut down on that, but you also need to make more money. Because when you make more money, that, funny enough, it kind of solves the problem, because now you're not even having that $100 conversation because you're making more money. Now, here's where it goes crazy. This is my second example. This is where it starts to fall apart, what I just said previously. If you like me, and again, I just so you know, I have a 45% in save to invest rate. So essentially we're pretty close to saving half of everything, you know, that comes in. So that's the person you're talking to. So you're not talking to somebody that's just reckless. So, but where it falls apart is if you start doing stuff when it's not time yet, like this one. So I'm only pointing to myself. Like, so if, for example, for me, steaks, I love steaks. So I indulge in steaks. I eat steaks several times a week. Those aren't cheap. You know, sometimes, you know, unless you can get a deal, but I put in the work to be able to afford that. And that's my little luxury. So, but if you trying to do, you doing the coffee, you got that coffee thing, you got the steak thing you're doing, then you got this other thing you do. Now, then it just starts adding up. Then it gets crazy for you. Then that's where, you know, you get a raise, you're spending more, you get a raise, spending more. But see, for me, those are, if I wanted to shut that down, I could shut that down. What really happens is you get a car payment. And you don't just get a car payment, you get a nice whip. So you riding clean, you get the BMW, you know, hey, you riding clean, you get the Hemi. So you make 80, 90, whatever you make. Then you go and get a $75,000 car or a $60,000 car. Like, think about that. That's crazy.
Tesla.
So your car is almost close to your salary. So when you start doing things like that, where you engage in contracts where for the next 5-6 years, you're going to be making this payment, and then you do that, then you get another payment, then you get another payment, like longer term payment. That's when you start getting in over your head. Yeah. So that's my perspective. As we close this one, drop a comment in the chat of this video. We want to hear from y'all. What's one money belief you grew up with that you've had to unlearn? Just one,